Good evening. This is Old School with WhatTheBuck.net with another YouTube installation. Caught a couple more training camp sessions and reviewed the Jacksonville tape. Been reading everything I can and listening to the radio, and I'm preparing for the Buccaneers zombie apocalypse if the Buccaneers offensive line is not able to rebound after a horrible showing in Jacksonville. I do expect to hear splashes from the Bay as people continue to jump off of this ship. There's already been quite a bit of that here in the Tampa Bay area. I'm not sure if it's that way where you are. But a couple of things I do want to bring up from training camp. One, I think that the depth chart is starting to really shape up. It's becoming more evident who's going to stick and who isn't. There's a couple of people that are a bit problematic in that Heron will most likely stick, but he hasn't done anything that really deserves sticking in training camp. So I'm hoping he can do something in the game to show that. The tight end stack rank is confusing as well because I think there's some guys that have not performed well enough to be in there. I think that our tight end stack should be very clear. It should be Wright, ASJ, and Luke Stocker, assuming Luke Stocker is not broken again. The rest of the guys just have not done enough to merit a position. I do think Javorsky Lane has done enough to merit a position on this team, and I think that causes some problems in the running back spot. But with Sims in a walking boot, we may have some flexibility there. The odd man out could be Demps. We'll see if he gets a chance to show some of his stuff in the punt return and kick return game where people think he can really excel, but it hasn't happened as of yet. Now, to the offensive line, which is what everyone is focusing on if they're not focusing on quarterback, which will happen again after Game 2. It started a little bit of percolation as QB2 versus QB1 after the first week, but I think most people realize you couldn't really evaluate anything that McCown was able to do since I don't know that he actually was able to get to the second step of his drop. Now, the guards have come under a lot of fire. The guard position was a position we thought would be a risk going into the season, and certainly it looked to be a risk in the game. And when I went back and watched the game, it was very clear that was a problem. Now, our tackles weren't outstanding, right? But the guard position was where the problem seemed to lie. So I went over, I believe it was on Monday's training camp. I was out there with Mark Cook from Pewter Report, and we went over to the one-on-one section, and we were watching the half-side drills and this sort of thing where you have, sort of center, guard, tackle going against an end and a tackle, or if you have guard, center, guard going against two tackles. This is sort of a one-on-one drill, but it's one-on-one across a group. And I got to tell you, the guards physically can play football. Now, I'm not saying that with any condescension at all, guys. I expect everyone at the NFL level can play football. But these guys can flat out play football. So I got really confused, and we sat there and talked about it for a while, and I called up a friend of mine who's an offensive line coach specialist. I talked to guys who played in the league. I said, why is it, how could it be when I have a situation like this, when it's sort of mano-a-mano, these guys can play with some of the best in the league? And I watched Gerald McCoy get flat out stoned a couple times by these guys. And Gerald McCoy is a damn good defensive line player, right? We all know that. So why is it that they could do that in this really, really tough assignment, and yet when you get into the real game, and even when you get to 11-11 in training camp, they can't put it together? And it seems as though it may be line calls. It could be understanding where blitzers may be coming from, though I didn't see a lot of blitzing in Jacksonville that made these problems arise. It could be a matter of maturation in the system, but I came away with it with an atypical amount of optimism about the athleticism that we have at the guard position, in that these guys aren't just flat out not good at what they do. They can actually do all of the things required of them. They've got to put it all together. Now, whether they will or not, I don't know. We're going to have to see what that looks like this week, Saturday night, against an even better defense here in Raymond James Stadium. But everyone in the world will be paying attention, because now people are talking about Richie Incognito and Alex Boone. There's going to be a ton of guards let go in the next couple of weeks that will allow us opportunities, but I'm not sure that we don't have guys that have the raw material here. So with that being said, in training camp, not a lot of surprises. We'll release a projected depth chart here probably in the next week, right after the Miami Dolphin game, and then I'll have another video I'll drop tonight as well about what I'm looking for in the Miami Dolphin game. If you're here in Tampa and you want to come out, we're going to have our inaugural Pewter Report podcast hosted by What the Buck Friday night at the Tampa Wing House at 8001 West Hillsboro. We'd love to have you. The show will kick off at 8. We will broadcast it live on our Ustream channel as well. Love to have you there in the chat room to interact, but if you want to come out there and have some wings and beer and interact with myself, Mark Cook, and whoever else they bring, we'd love to see you out there as well. Thanks so much.